Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mike's, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hi, everyone.
Ruben Bressler.
Good evening. How's it going?
Oh, we're here. It's a new time to
Still
record
got that
these.
Thanksgiving hangover.
Yep.
We're recording these now on Sundays because the end of the year is kind of crazy for Aaron, and it messed me up last week, man.
It messes me up.
I got really concerned because Evan just started sending us these messages like, I don't know what's happening, y'all. And we're like, Are you okay? Like, do we need to reschedule? Do you need help? Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at a calendar since March, and the only way that I know what day it is anymore is my shows. Mm-hmm. It's Wednesday, I'm doing Magic Mike's. Monday, it's not Monday anymore?
Not Monday.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm totally turned upside down.
But I do want to say thank you to you two for being so accommodating, because when I thought this was something I was going to have to do, I was really prepared to sell it and defend it. And I didn't even have to. All I had to say was work's really busy. I can't do Monday. Can we do Sunday? And you both were absolutely.
Yeah,
so
of course. Shout
out to having great understanding co-hosts that are willing to work with you, because I was prepared to I don't know why, but I was they're going to say no, and I'm going to have to
go to the mat for this.
When you work with a Class A diva like Aaron Campbell, sometimes
the things you
sacrifices have to be made.
I need my green M&Ms. I need my 50-degree Evian, all that stuff.
Well, we also begin with our choice of the top comment from last week in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent in letting us know what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 alternate cost cards. Ruben?
Now, we do have a winner this week, but I also wanted to point out that we had many comments in our comments section this week concerning Phyrexian mana.
Yeah.
Now, do you think Phyrexian mana, Dismember, Mental Misstep, Gitaxian Probe were the main ones mentioned, counts as an alternate cost?
Kinda.
No.
But I would err on the side of no. I would err on the side of, if I would divvy up the cards I'm trying to explain alternate costs with, I wouldn't choose those.
Yeah. Right. That and of course all three of us went in that direction. But
right.
I did want to point out that many people in our comments section did want shout outs to those Phyrexian mana cards, which of course you can pay 2 life or 1 blue mana.
Okay, that's fair.
Stuff like that.
Right.
It doesn't say it in the text box in rather than pay, you can sacrifice 3 black creatures to play a Delrake or whatever. Mm-hmm. But our winner this week is Blackwell101, who writes, I'm a bit confused how this card didn't make any list. If Rooftop Storm made Aaron's list, and she is the EDH player in the group, how did Omniscience not make the lists? First, no one is paying full price to get this into play. Then once it's in play, they're never paying any price for spells. Last I heard, free spells was good. I know there's only so much room on these lists, but I definitely feel this one deserved a spot.
Very nice.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I mean, it does have that, I tend to like things that make a splash in older formats. So it sees play in Legacy, and Vintage sometimes. So yeah, definitely. Like I always say, we love to leave you guys things that are obvious so that you all have something to chew on when you leave us your honorable mentions. We don't want to leave you nothing.
Right.
Omniscience, for those who don't know, is 3 blue, 7 generic mana. That's 10 mana that you'll likely never spend to cast it. It was a mythic rare from Magic 2013 originally. It's an enchantment that says you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana costs.
I've paid 10 mana for an Omniscience.
Have you now?
What?
Yeah. Omni-World Thragfire.
Oh,
anybody?
Geez.
Nobody remembers?
God.
Listen, sometimes you got to pay retail to play every spell in your deck.
But you do bring up a good point. This did see a little bit of play in Standard with that deck. I also played it for a couple of weeks in the Flood My Basement deck, where you were playing Flood of Tears, and then you would just whoop, and then you'd play an Omniscience for 6 weeks. And so, yeah, I've done that. I get it.
Goodness gracious. Well, Blackwell101, thanks for being a part of the show. Congratulations. Please contact Erin on social media before she blocks you on all of them. And yes, that literally just happened. Hey, Evan, don't know how to say this. But she already blocked me.
Funny joke's not funny when funny joke's not a joke.
That's true. But I mean, look at it from my perspective, and I just want to,
you were totally right.
So if you are watching this, I just want to be proactive here. So if you are watching this, and let's say you are new to Twitter and you decide to make a Twitter account to contact me, what really, what I'm really looking for is I'm not saying, aliases tend to throw me off. If I see a picture that's not of a person,
just the
if you haven't
picture.
Tweeted at all, but if, so just give me some impression that there's a person behind this account. Like, you can just say your username is like Jesse, and like that's cool. But like, if your username is like Ermagerd Goosebumps, and you have like a ditto as your avatar, and you have no followers, that looks a little funny. So you just want to make sure that you look like a human being. That's all.
Don't make your username followed by 5 numbers, okay?
Right.
That's not, it never works out. I'm sorry.
No.
All right. Well, that said, let's take a look here and keep moving on to our top 10. Top 10 mono white humans. Thanks so much to the Discord for giving us this
word
idea.
mono.
Just
saving us.
Oh,
There were like 800 just of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
it was a lot just to get
This
through.
was a tough list.
This was a very tough list. But we got to get started somewhere. Our number 10. Aaron, what's your number 10?
So my number 10 is a card that means a lot to me personally. I was able to take part in a pre-release for Ravnica Allegiance, and this card was the all-star in my deck. I played a very risky Mardu deck that was built with the help of Serge Jaeger, who we all know and love, and I was able to really show off this card on camera, and I will always look at this card and think of my time at the pre-release and how fond I was of that time. My number 10 is Hero of Precinct 1. So Hero of Precinct 1 is 1 colorless and a white. It's a human warrior with 2 power and 2 toughness, and it says whenever you cast a multicolored spell, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So obviously, if you're playing any sort of Ravnica set, there's going to be a good amount of multicolored cards, and so I was able to just really turn this thing into an engine and, create little humans that I could then sacrifice to my Rakdos things and do even more damage, and just, kind of obliterated poor Shivam on camera there. But I love this card. It will always take me back to that time. And, I've had other people tag me as well, when they're playing sealed or even standard and say, a short time after the pre-release, people would tag me and say, I got your card. And that made me so happy to see.
Yeah, this card saw a lot of play in the Esper mid-range decks. Wyatt Darby made a top 8 appearance at an SCG Open with it. And there was just nothing sweeter than going turn 2 Hero of Precinct 1, turn 3 Thief of Sanity, make a token. Because, my lord, both those cards are so dangerous if left unchecked. And that's kind of
clean living.
Yeah, it's kind of how the deck ran away with itself.
Yeah, the Esper Hero sort of control-ish kind of deck very nearly won the 3rd Mythic Championship, losing only to Nexus Reclamation, I believe, after Brad Nelson got 2nd, Kai Bude got 3rd. Pretty much anything on turn 3, once you have a hero in play, you're just generating value. So it's very similar to a young Pyromancer, or something along those lines, with your Thought Erasures and your Oath of Kayas and things of that nature. Not to mention 8 Teferis in that deck.
Oh, goodness gracious. And you had Mortify and Discovery and stuff like that. Like, there was all sorts of cool ways to trigger it. Ruben, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is a card that, I appreciate it whenever a card is banned in a format. And I think it always deserves a shout out whenever a card is banned in a format. And this card is one of those cards that was like, oh, you're right. We probably should ban Durant Magistrate in Brawl. We probably shouldn't let Durant Magistrate happen in Brawl. Colorless and a white for a 1/3 human wizard. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. This was, of course, printed in a world where companions were as they were printed.
This was the hate for companions.
This was the hate for companions. But it also hated on commanders. It also hates on, flashback and other things from the graveyard. And from the tops of libraries too. You haven't lived until you've shut off an experimental frenzy with a Durant Magistrate. So, Durant Magistrate, just a very high quality card, and I love his hair.
I mean, it cuts off escape too. Like, this was supposed to be a huge stopgap for the format of standard. This will be like stopping Uro and whatnot, but. No, dog. Like, it doesn't matter. When you get that first trigger, that's all you need at that point to zoom in.
I was using this, so when the Esper Doom deck was being, finessed in standard and people were working on it and tuning it, we were running this against the Adventures decks because, obviously Adventures has been a thing for a while. And so you would get people that would do their, turn 1, or they would do the ramp on the Beanstalk Giant. And it's like, well, now you don't get your Beanstalk Giant. And, this thing having a nice 3 butt on it, that 3 toughness, it was very difficult to get rid of in some cases.
Yeah, it cracks me up that this was there's your silver bullet, and it's like a
little too strong.
Yeah, it's happened before where you're just like, that ain't gonna get there. What was that 3 mana 3/3 pro black pro blue? guy.
Great Sable Stag?
Great Sable Stag. That was the one where it was like, this is going to end fairies. No, it's not.
Right. And then fairies like adopted it. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
God, it was gross.
You really adopted it.
Gross. Yeah, that's the problem with that stuff. It can turn back against you. My number 10 here just represents that a lot of people don't like white in Commander. A lot of problems with Commander and white and what white can do and what white can't do and how it's supposed to like tax people. But then like Hull Breachers exists and stuff. Right. And like, why are you doing that to those colors?
Why
and
couldn't this be white?
Why couldn't this be white? And so it feels like Wizards made a very concerted choice to making Mangara the Diplomat a very playable, excellent commander option.
Absolutely.
For a white and 3 generic mana, it's a 2/4 mythic legendary human cleric. It has lifelink, and whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card, which is also a big one.
Yeah, so I have this in my Queen Marchesa deck. It's funny, I've actually found it to be a little disappointing. I saw it a couple times this weekend, and it just never really did what I wanted it to do. But, Mangara obviously being a very popular character in the Magic lore. This was one of the first cards that we saw from M21, and people got really, really excited. And, regardless of how I feel about white, I think white is fine. It does show that they're at least trying. And so even if this card isn't necessarily a bullseye, at least they're attempting to do things that, create card draw in white, which has been one of the biggest criticisms around it.
Yeah, I also have this in my Linvala Brawl deck.
Yeah.
It's just so much advantage. It's not a prison card, but it shuts off your opponent from so many angles of attack because your opponent can let you draw 2 additional cards a turn on a 2/4. Starting as early as turn 3 or 4, depending on if you have a signet or not. And that is just an incredibly powerful tool.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. Mangara is also, a little bit for what it's worth, is a beating in limited, kind of obvious, but
sure,
it certainly is. I played it against, Mangara in one of the seals or whatever I was playing back in the day on the arena, and it was a beating. That card is ridiculous. Let's move on here to number 9. Aaron, what's your number 9?
My number 9, speaking of Queen Marchesa, there are a couple entries in here that are in that deck currently, and my number 9 is one of my favorites. My boyfriend likes to say that my Marchesa deck is my blue deck, and, for good reason. I want people to think that it's okay to attack me. I want people to think that the shields are down, and then I love surprising people with things. As I like to say, don't make me get off the couch. This is one of the cards that I use when I have to get off the couch. My number 9 is Selfless Squire. Selfless Squire is 3 colorless and a white. It was printed one time in Commander 2016. It's a human soldier with 1 power, 1 toughness, and flash. And when Selfless Squire enters the battlefield, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. And whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, you put that many +1/+1 counters on Selfless Squire. So, you look defenseless. Somebody goes, okay, I'm going to get in there. You flash this baby in. Suddenly you have this 15/15, and then you go, are you done? And in many cases, you untap, and then you throw that 15/15 back at them. And so, I love this. This is great. It's flavorful. You have the queen, and you have the squire, and just don't make me get off the couch.
Yeah,
this is a sweet card. This is
it's awesome. Like a draining Welk Fog. That thing's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can get absolutely huge for 4 mana out of nowhere. It lets you kind of have those surprise moments. This is the type of gameplay that I really enjoy, which is, it's interesting. You never know exactly how it's going to end up, like how much damage is going to stop. If people play around it in the future, like, well, if you got a squire, I should only swing with XYZ, that type of stuff is great.
Definitely.
Yeah, if they're playing around Settle the Wreckage and Selfless Squire, then they're not doing too great against the Monarch deck.
I still can't cast Settle the Wreckage with a straight face. I'm always just like, Settle the Wreckage.
Man, I got popped on that a couple weeks ago. It was ridiculous. All right. Ruben, what's number 9?
From a queen that we were just talking about to a king. This is a card that I find to be one of the most flavorful, hilarious, interesting cards. It is on the reserve list. It is $120 for a copy of King Suleiman.
Yes.
King Suleiman is a colorless and a white 1/1 summon king. These days, he is a human noble.
Oh.
He is a 1/1 that says tap, destroy target Jinn or Ifrit.
Oh, wow.
There have been, I think, maybe around 45 Jinns and probably like 20 Ifrits over the history of Magic, but King Suleiman will take care of them for you with his Mark Pool art and his snaky staff.
there was this kind of design ethos in early Magic where as long as you could kind of bring some like serious hate for certain things or groups or colors or creature types or whatever, that you would kind of solve the problem of something being too good or something kind of taking over. And this was always just kind of weirdly irrelevant, and it's just on 1/1, and it's like, thanks for putting it on the reserve list, I guess, because that's the only reason it's worth anything. But yeah, it's fine. Whatever. All right. For my number 9 here, this is one of the whitest of mono white cards we could play. This is a classic effect that got to see lots of tournament play. It's a classic white effect, and it's a human knight, and so it kind of joins in all these cool creature types together because Banish Marshall was a fantastic, awesome creature for its time and standard. Banish Marshall is 3 white mana for a 3/3 rare human knight that only has 1 line of text. Other creatures you control get +1/+1.
You'll take it.
I'll take it.
Oh,
Sweet.
yeah.
Dope. Great in
This
mobiles.
is exactly what you wanted to play on turn 3 in that standard format. I mean, it dominated the Pro Tour that it was in. Not alone, but...
I mean, this is one of the best white weenie cards of all time. Like, it's fan-freaking-tastic. You want it every time on turn 3. This is what you want to carve into every single game.
I mean, you had this, and then you had History of Benalia as the top, essentially the top end of your white deck. This was, of course, this was the only deck that you really could be playing at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica with the Boros aggro deck. It took over that whole tournament. And it's the white weeniest of white weenie cards. It's a glorious anthem on a 3/3.
Andrea Mengucci won in March 2019 the Mythic Invitational with white weenie. Also good old fashioned Sky Marcher Aspirant and friends. Yeah, freaking Rustwing Falcon, yo. That was a card of the main deck. Think about it.
Amazing.
We were to number 8. Aaron, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is a card that I used to have in my Queen Marchesa deck, but I took it out just because I had so many toys to play with and I couldn't fit them all. I was so happy to see this reprinted in Commander Legends, though, so that a new audience can discover this card and play with it, and maybe they'll be able to find a use for it as well. My number 8 is Orzov Advocates. So Orzov Advocates is 2 colorless and a white. It was originally printed in Commander 2016. 1 power and 4 toughness, a human advisor that says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. If a player does this, creatures that player controls can't attack you or a planeswalker you control until your next turn. So at the beginning of each upkeep, you're just like, are we cool? Are we cool? Are we cool? And then you make people choose. And so this is a really great political card that, really asks people to, be loyal to you temporarily. And you got to be careful because sometimes people will be like, nope. Or they will be loyal, and then suddenly that creature's coming at you with counters that you gave them. And so you have to be very careful of this card, but it does create some interesting gameplay.
The number one thing I like about Commander is the political aspect. The idea, the alliances, the backstabbing, the when do you do it, when do you not do it? It's awesome.
And this is a card that can get out of hand very quickly. I mean, this can come down on turn 3. It has 4 toughness, so it's kind of tough to deal with. And a lot of decks don't have anything going creature-wise on the battlefield for the first several turns of the game. So this could get out of hand, in no time flat.
I mean, not to mention this goes from a 1/4 to a 3/6.
3/6, yeah.
The next turn, you untap with it, so that's pretty awesome too.
Well, no, because each player
may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control.
Including you.
That includes you.
And then you can't attack yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't attack yourself,
Wait, have I been playing this wrong?
Looks like.
Maybe.
This card
Maybe.
Did I not know this?
You thought it was so good even without putting +1/+1 counters on your own.
Each player. That's you.
They control. If a player does.
You can't attack yourself.
This might be going back into Marchesa is what I'm hearing.
Hey-o. That's what I'm talking about.
Wow, I'm even reading over the rules on Scryfall, and it's, you choose a creature you control or choose not. Wow.
Well,
interesting.
Today Aaron learned. That's fantastic. That card's even better.
You know what else I learned the other day? I learned that if you flicker wisp one of those weird modal dual lands, you don't get it back.
Really?
That's annoying. Yeah.
What?
What?
Because it comes back as like a it's a thing.
Doesn't it come back as the face up, the top one?
What?
Just
Why?
It's like when you blink those lands, they come back as creatures because they're the
Well,
topmost.
it's a spell and a land.
Right.
It comes back as a spell, but it can't come back as a spell, so you lose it.
Right, they don't die. If you blink a instant or sorcery on the other side.
Yeah.
But if you blink a creature, it comes back as the creature.
Right, I'm not talking about the creature. I'm talking like I was playing Modern Belcher, and it was like one of these.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant the pathways.
No. I don't even know what those are half the time. No, this was the weird spell.
If you blink like a turn timber rejuvenation or whatever, that's cool. I like that.
That was rude. Yeah.
All right, Ruben, what's number 8?
My number 8 is on our list for the nominees for the Magic Mikesies this year. It's not on one of the good lists either. Oh. It's on one of the most hated cards of the year. Not because of anything that it did, but because of the secret lore drop that it is in total. Oh. My number 8 is Rick, Steadfast Leader.
Oh my god.
2 colorless white gets you a legendary creature, human soldier, 3/4. As Rick enters the battlefield, choose 2 abilities from among First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Humans you control have each of the chosen abilities, and as long as you control 4 or more humans you control get +2/+2. Now, people were messing with this in Legacy because it's only playable in Legacy and Vintage. Mm-hmm. It is still a $33 card because it's difficult to get.
Look, and I told y'all, you don't have to like the collectibles business.
Exactly.
But it is
to
the
participate in it.
But $33 is reasonable.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Is it?
The lore drop itself was $60.
For competitive play, we've paid more for cards. I
mean, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Rick from The Walking Dead on a Magic card in a secret lair drop that includes other Walking Dead characters.
Please, Wizards, never do this again. Please. That little hollow thing at the bottom is not enough. It is not carrying the weight that it needs. You can only sell the integrity of black bordered cards one time, and I'm afraid that this was it, and that hurts me. Mm-hmm. Let's move on here to my number 8. My number 8, it has this card's $15 freaking. Mine it has 2 versions, right? Wizards not cool with women in the bloomers. Not okay. This isn't like panties. This ain't like bathing suit. This is bloomers. It's like the cheerleaders that wear the bloomers on top of the door.
Bloomers.
This is the bloomers you see.
Put your windows down.
Get your windows down. Get your bloomers on. Your Aryak Champions. All right, from 5th Dawn. Got the blooms, and then they just slather in metal or something for the second one. Aryak Champion is 2 white mana for a 1/1 rare human cleric that has protection from black and red, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may gain 1 life. And that means any creature from any side of anybody at the table. So this card was nuts at stopping mono red decks and any sort of black decks, Rakdos decks that showed up. It was really sweet, and there's not a lot of cards that have protection from black and red.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough card for the burn decks to deal with. It stood in front of a Goblin Guide while still able to survive, and it also padded your life total. This was a tough one.
Difficult for Dredge, too. I mean, every time a creature comes into play, so like all your Narcomy goes whoop, 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 and then your blood gets whoop, 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 and, you think you could race it. You're like, if I just, try a little harder, just don't bring things. Just nope, there's no... It's got to be Blast Zone, maybe. I mean, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, it's Blast Zone.
Barbarian Ring.
Barbarian Ring, but Conflagrate doesn't. Dark Blast doesn't. I mean, it's just so pesky.
And I'm not saying every card needs bloomers, all right? I'm not saying that. I'm not explaining that. I'm saying that when you look at the iconic Masters version, it is comical. They're like, you better put metal on her face. Like, there better be no part of her other than the scraggly strands of hair to say that this person's female. Like, I was like, okay, guys, seriously, we get it. God.
Yeah. This was also the original win condition in the old Allurin decks.
Ooh. And by win really? I didn't know that.
So you gained infinite life with them. Okay. Because there wasn't really you didn't really have the tools to be able to ping everybody all the time, but you would gain infinite life. You would you'd find everything with your Raven familiars, if you remember that card. It also was in black-white tokens for a long time as well.
Okay. Yeah, this card is really sweet. It was in my cube from the moment I made it, the moment I sold it. The card is fantastic. Let's move on here to number 7. Aaron, what's your number 7?
My number 7 has become an all-star in my Cathril EDH deck. I tweeted a picture of me winning a game thanks to this card, and it's just so stupid. It's so over the top, and of course I love it. My number 7 is Audrey Lunar Marshall.
Yep.
So Audrey Lunar Marshall was originally printed in Shadows over Innistrad. It is less than $1, so if you're a budget EDH player like me, gone and get you some, in the words Evan Irwin. It's a legendary creature human soldier with 3 power and 3 toughness. At the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn if a creature you control has first strike. The same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. So, if you're playing a keyword soup deck like Cathrall, there's a pretty good chance that Cathrall is going to have one or more of these abilities. So if you have Audrey out with Cathrall, then all of your creatures benefit from this. And so what I love to do with this deck is I love to cast Eerie Ultimatum. Bring everything back from the graveyard, give everything, and then swing! And I did that last night, and I had a great time. So if you are playing Cathrall, this is the card you want, and I love it.
The same is true may be one of my favorite phrases in Magic.
Everything.
I've searched for the same is true, and they tell me it's on 13 cards, but regardless. And this is like...
I like the same is true.
Yeah, Majestic Mirror Arc that we had, as I recall,
Yep.
one of our previous, that had the same thing, Soul Flayer, stuff like that. But yeah, this card is really, really dope. And just, to me, it's prime comedy, right? There's so many words on it. You can just, the soup is clear. They couldn't just say like every keyword, right? They couldn't just say that.
They had to name the keyword.
Skulk. Don't forget skulk.
Skulk, y'all.
Make sure you save room on the card for skulk.
Right?
That's right.
Another one of the secret lore drop cards. Glenn has Skulk, Evan, so you better get your knowledge up.
Fair enough.
Get your knowledge.
Get you now. Get you. All right. Ruben, what's number 7?
My number 7 is the one higher on my list.
Oh, wow. Well, okay then. I will move on to my number 7, which is not higher. I have no hires this week, which is fun.
Nice.
All right, so for my number 7, this is one of the highest rated EDH cards amongst the humans, which I thought was interesting. This card saw a ton of play in Standard, tons of play in Casual, Cubes, obviously Commanders, because it's so versatile and it does a lot of what you want to do when you're playing White. When you're playing White, you're often playing very small creatures, and if only those small creatures could draw you cards, and that's when Mentor of the Meek says, hey, what's up, y'all? Mentor of the Meek originally showed up in Innistrad. It was a white 2 generic mana for 2/2 as a rare human soldier, and whenever another creature power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 generic mana, and if you do, you draw a card. So great with tokens, great with small creatures, fantastic.
Yeah. I have this in my queen. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, you first.
The fact that this goes with tokens is unreal. I mean, when this card came out in Innistrad, it was kind of a sea change because, White doesn't draw cards.
Yeah.
But this does. This sort of was a brand new event horizon to show what could be done with White card draw. And I've had many games where if I first picked a Mentor, I would just pick every Gather the Townsfolk that I could find. And, turn 3 Mentor, turn 4 Gather, draw 2 cards, and then go to town for the rest of the game.
I mean, Lingering Souls was a card. Like
that too.
Yeah, I have this on my God Eternal Loketra deck because I'm playing a lot of, quite frankly, crappy white creatures, and they have, small power because you really just want the Oketra triggers. And then, when you trigger Oketra and get a zombie token, well, power 2 or less. But I mean, you have other things you can do. And like you said, in white, mono white, you'll take any card draw you can get.
Exactly. So the fact that it didn't say non-token creature enters the battlefield
is huge.
Huge. All right, let's move over to number 6. Aaron, what's number 6?
My number 6 is a card that I love, and I feel like you still see the impact of this card today because they've made what I call, fixed versions of this. But if you're playing any sort of aristocrat deck, this is really the gold standard for what you want. My number 6 is Doom Traveler. So Doom Traveler is 1 white. It was originally printed in Innistrad. It's a human soldier with 1 power and 1 toughness. And when Doom Traveler dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So, I mean, we got the witness, the weird witness from Ravnica, was it?
Hunted witness.
But that one doesn't give you flying. No. And so you can get a 1/1 white, but it's like, we won't get this. Like, I get a feeling we're never going to get this again. And even the Afterlife cards, I don't think there was a 1 mana Afterlife that got you a flyer. I think it was 2 at the earliest.
It was Tidetaker, I think, was the earliest.
Tidetaker and Orzov.
And so we talk
Toucher.
about cards that have really, maybe scarred wizards that they're just never going to give us again. And I'd be very skeptical if we ever got a Doom Traveler again, as silly as it sounds.
In Standard.
Yeah, we also...
they clearly love this card, not in Standard, just in Standard.
We also had the cat that when it died from Ikoria, I think that when the cat died, you got a human, but it doesn't have flying.
Right.
Yeah, you're never going to get an evasive creature like you did with like Doom Traveler was such a important piece. Like you need the engine, but you need the gas too.
Yeah.
And Doom Traveler provided exactly what you needed in that deck.
Like having, Swords of X and Y and stuff and getting an invasive creature to stick it on was like fantastic. You know? Great. Ruben, what's number 6?
My number 6 is a card that was like the reason for the season. It was like the only card most people played in the format. It's a card that probably should have won a Pro Tour and then gone away completely, but it actually ended up losing the Pro Tour that it put, I think, 6 copies into the top 8 of. This was Pro Tour New York 2000. Later on, this card became only the second creature ever banned after Ali from Cairo was originally banned or restricted at the game's inception. And it took a long time until another one was banned in Lin Civi, Defiant Hero. Lin Civi Defiant Hero is a colorless white for a legendary creature human rebel that is a 1/3 that has 2 abilities. The first one is X and tap. Search your library for a rebel permanent card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Pay 3 mana, put target rebel card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. Wow. Lin Civi was a huge part of Rebels and Counter Rebels that basically tried to pump out creatures from your deck. This was another way that White was able to garner card advantage in slightly different and unique ways. You could go up the chain with Ramosian Sergeant and Ramosian Lieutenant, later finding a Lin Civi. You could get out your Joval Queens and your Ramosian Sky Sergeants and your other giant rebels, and you could recycle them if they happened to die by putting them back on the bottom of your deck.
I mean, first of all, it's a $45 foil. Jesus. I know, right? Then the killer, the real killer part was the legend rule. The legend rule at the time said that once you play your legend, they can't play theirs until yours dies or leaves or whatever. And so I think later that went to when you both control one, they both sacrifice, and then later it was you both can have legends, whatever. And nowadays you can have as many Planeswalker Jaces as you want. But back then that was a serious problem because when they create a card like this, whoever's on the play has a way higher percentage of winning if they have this in their opening hand because you just ran up the chain from there. This card was dumb. I just felt like the whole mechanic was horrible. Like it created like similar gameplay situations over and over. The gameplay loops over and over. Like this was like if Cat Oven were like an entire mechanic that went like up and down the chain of sacrificing things. You would just hate it.
And you only needed one card.
Yeah, you just need one card and it would keep going. Like, I hated it.
You didn't even need one card. You could just have one of like 20 cards because your Ramosian Lieutenant could go search up a Lin Civi and then you could start it later.
Goodness gracious, this card. And again, the rules of the legend rule problem was just so dumb and just completely ruined that format, in my opinion.
I really want I've seen it occasionally. It doesn't really work, but there is a Rebels deck that floats around in Legacy every once in a while with the card Training Grounds.
Oh my god. That card's like $50, by the way.
Yeah. So that you play your Ramosian Sergeant and a Training Grounds and start searching your deck. But I wish it worked, but it doesn't.
I'm glad it doesn't, and I feel sorry for those who had to play through that time in Magic. For my number 6 here, this is one of my favorite white weenie creatures. It's awesome. They have not put it back in the standard since it was there, and it showed up in Shards of Alara. They threw it in a dual deck. They threw it in Commander 2020, which is nice, so you can get a copy nice and cheap, $1.50 to get your own Knight of the White Orchid. Knight of the White Orchid is one of the coolest, one of the best cards to play on the draw, which is awesome. Knight of the White Orchid is 2 white for a rare 2/2 human knight with first strike, and when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a Plains card, note a Plains card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It can go get duels and whatnot, and most importantly, it can catch you up. They play their third land, say go. You untap, play Knight, go get a Plains, play it, then play your land drop for the turn. Suddenly you have 4 mana to their 3 mana, so it not only caught you up, it basically drew you a card. Like, there was nothing bad about that experience. Knight of the White Orchid is just one of my favorite creatures ever. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And also, not to, ramp was somewhat popular and always is at the time. And so even if your opponent was able to play a Rampant Growth or a Farseek, you were able to say, okay, well, my Rampant Growth Farseek has a tutu attached to it. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
Knight of the White Orchid is such a cool design. What a cool name. It's just a great card.
Yeah, my only issue with this card, and this is something my boyfriend recently convinced me of, is that, and maybe this is one of the problems with white that people are referring to, but there are a number of cards in white that seem to only benefit you if you're behind. Right. And that's a weird position to take, where you have to consistently be on the back foot to get the benefit of these cards. And so, I do hope that, these cards are fine. You'll take them. But, I do think that that's one of the things that white needs to work on, is that you shouldn't be giving people cards that just work when you're not doing so hot. Like, you should be able to play them.
Timely reinforcement.
Right. Like purposely not playing something just to get it's weird. Right. And I think we need to move away from that.
The feeling of sort of being able to just not only catch up but kind of get ahead with Knight of the White Orchid, and particularly in later turns, it wasn't always just turn 2 or turn 3. Right. It was, turn 5 you got more lands than I do. Great, I need that 6 land too.
Sure, I'll take it. It's a card out of my deck.
100%. So let's move on here.
Pips, get some pips.
That's right, get some pips on you.
Pips. All right, Aaron, what's number 5?
My number 5 is a weird card. I only know of this from Legacy, and this is one of those cards that once you see them, you know exactly what you're facing, because not every deck in the world wants this card. It's very, very niche, and you're probably dealing with something broken if you ever see it, and that's, of course, why I love it. My number 5 is Children of Corliss.
Yeah.
So Children of Corliss is 1 white. It was printed exactly once in Time Spiral. It is a human rebel cleric with 1 power and 1 toughness. It's very simple. You sacrifice Children of Corliss and you gain life equal to the life you've lost this turn. So this is a very important piece of Tin Fins, which is a legacy combo that revolves around, you can use Grizzlebrand. But the point is, if you just drain yourself silly with Grizzlebrand, you play this and you gain all of that life back, and you can keep going. And you can either go into a Tendrils kill, or you can find something else interesting to do with your, with your mana, with your cards. But the minute you see Children of Corliss, you know exactly what you're up against.
Yeah.
The old $7 foil. Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And there is some interesting lore behind the city of Corliss, which is one of the ancient coastal kingdoms in Dominaria, that during the Brothers' War became a factory city, essentially, and was so ravaged by the war and destroyed by the onslaught of industry that after the war it crumbled and became Krav, of Kravakan horror fame and Kravakan sorcerer, and it became essentially a zombie city. Real sad story, but some of the refugees out of Corliss, the children of Corliss, moved off into the deserts and survived.
It always kind of cracked me up that the entire theme of Time Spiral was everything sucks. It's like, everything sucks. Everything's getting destroyed. Everything's going away. People have to wear all this crap. There's sand that's blowing around everywhere. That's, or salt or whatever it was. It's killing everything. And everything sucks. Everything sucks. That's just what the
and
world
now
was.
Look at us.
That's right. Only most things suck.
Right.
Yeah. Who's wearing the masks now, eh?
That's right.
Children of Corliss.
Time Spiral before their time.
We went from Children of Corliss to Children of COVID. Am I right, ladies?
Hey. Good job. High five.
Ruben, what's your number 5?
Don't mention that too many times. YouTube will be mad at us.
True. Ruben hates that stuff.
We'll get demonetized. My number 5, 4, 3, and 2 are cards that ping 2 of my boxes. They won a Pro Tour, and they're still to this day in the Magic the Gathering online cube, the Vintage Cube.
Okay.
And my number 5 is a card that I had forgotten had actually won a Pro Tour in one of my favorite decks, a deck that we've already talked about today. And it was one of those cards that was like, oh, right, you could just kill somebody out of nowhere if you had a Falconwrath Aristocrat and a Silverblade Paladin. Silverblade Paladin is a colorless white 2/2 human knight with Soul Bond. Come and get your Soul Bond. You may pair this creature with another unpaired creature. When either enters the battlefield, they remain paired for as long as you control both of them. Do you need me to repeat that?
Yeah.
As long as Silverblade Paladin is paired with another creature, both creatures have double strike. Double strike. That's a heck of an ability.
That is a
and
heck
if you
of an
put it, if you pair it up with like Wolfear Silverheart or something, if you pair it up with anything that has evasion or trample, it just gets out of hand quick.
Yeah, this card was a little weird. Honestly, I expected it to do a little bit better. I mean, obviously it won a Pro Tour.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, I was like, man, this card seems terrific. And honestly, I must be misremembering because, wow, this thing was in everything. It was in the Aristocrats, Bant Auras, Nigh Humans, Boros Humans.
It was in Bant Hexproof for a while, too. I didn't realize that it was so ubiquitous, but apparently it was.
Well, there you go. Soulbond was a really weird ability. I don't expect to see it to come back. I don't think there's a lot of design space that they left on the floor type thing.
Right.
And yeah.
It's a very flavorful ability.
Sure.
I think it's an interesting ability from the standpoint of the story they were trying to tell in Avacyn Restored.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that they've squeezed that particular orange pretty dry.
Yeah. Let's move here to my number 5. This is one of my classic white creatures. I love this thing. It hasn't been printed since 9th edition. They threw it in a mystery booster, thank God, so you can get you a $5 copy instead of what was, I think it was going up to $15 and $20 copies. This card is terrific, and it plays a lot into what Aaron just talked about, where you need to be behind for Weathered Wayfarer to really come through for you.
I love Weathered Wayfarer.
And it's so good. It's 1 white for a 1/1 rare human nomad cleric. It has 1 ability, 1 white, tap, : search your library for a land card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only if an opponent controls more lands than you.
Still a $5 card, at least?
It's a hell of a magic card. It goes and gets any land you want, which is awesome. And you can do it at the end of their turn, untap, go get another land.
Any land is nice.
Yeah.
Any land, that's right.
Card is dope.
It saw play in Maverick, because there's a bunch of utility lands that you have in your deck. You can go get your Caracas or your Horizon Canopy or whatever, what have you. It also saw play in Martyr Proc. Because while Martyr Proc isn't super dependent on its lands, sometimes you just need a Ghost Quarter, right? Yeah. Sometimes you just need an Emeria the Sky Ruin, and this was able to go get it for you.
Yeah, this card was just so cool, and it just feels sometimes a little like cheating when you're just like, end of your turn, go get a land. My turn, get a land. Play a land, go. And you're just like, it drew me 2 cards over the 2 turns.
I mean, it's not land tax. No, but it's pretty close.
It's damn close. It's close enough to where your opponent is like, do I have to play this land? And you're like, that's my boy.
Exactly.
That's my boy. That's what that card is. Yeah, card's great. Let's move over to number 4. Aaron, what's your number 4?
So we're clearly in the legacy, vintage, broken things section, as evidenced by Children of Corliss. And so my number 4 fits in right at home here. I have not had the courage to play this deck, but it certainly has a place in my heart and the hearts of many people in a deck lovingly known as Bomberman. My number 4 is Aryak Salvagers.
Yes.
So Aryak Salvagers is 3 colorless and a white. It was originally printed in 5th Dawn, I believe. Yep. And it is very simple. It's a human soldier with 2 power, 4 toughness, for 1 colorless and a white and a colon. You return target artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So you pair this with Lion's Eye Diamond, which costs 0, and then you sacrifice it to make 3 mana of any 1 color, and then you just keep doing this. You sacrifice your LED, you make 3 mana, you spend 2 mana to get it back. You do this at a gain of 1 mana every single time, and then you pour it into something like a Walking Ballista. You can do other dumb things with it, like a Monastery Mentor. You can make your mentor really, really big or make a bunch of things. And then your deck just has, ways to protect the combo. But this is basically Bomberman. Every once in a while, it just kind of comes out of nowhere and wins something. I think the last time it did well was when Zerda came out and people were like, oh boy.
Sure.
And so,
Zerda's good with this one.
And so it's just a thing. And it's just another one of those instantly recognizable cards that no other deck wants. But the minute you see it, you're like, oh no, here we go.
It appears to have won an Eternal Vintage Weekend in 2015 with Bomberman Oath.
Yep,
you do with Lotus.
It's a huge Oath target because it does also work with Lotus. And because of the way Oath works, it puts like half your library into your graveyard. So it puts your Lotus or your LED into your graveyard already.
Yeah.
I have great love for Aryak Salvagers, not just in the combo element, but also in sort of like a mid-range. I played a Bomberman red, white, blue mid-range deck with Imperial Recruiter to go find it.
Wow.
Or Painter's Servant. Like, it was a cool mix-up.
I mean,
and also fun and limited because you would get back your spell bombs. There was lots of stuff that you could do with it.
Buddy of mine, Ken Adams, got also the only other first place in the TCG Player deck database with Painter's Grindstone. featuring this guy. So
yes,
yeah,
Painted Grindstone with Bomberman in it. It's a nice one. Go get to be able to return a grindstone from your graveyard.
I'll take it. Ruben, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is another card that is apparently my top 5 is not only a tour of cards that have won Pro Tours and are in the cube, but are also have keywords that will never return. We had Lyn Civvy, Rebels ain't coming back. We had Silverblade Paladin, I don't think we'll see Soulbond again. Now we got Level Up. And we're never going to see Level Up again, even though Student of Warfare is a heck of a Magic card. Student of Warfare is a white mana for a 1/1 human knight with Level Up of a white mana. Pay a white : put a level counter on this Level Up only as a sorcery. At levels 2 through 6, it's a 3/3.
First strike.
With first strike, and at level 7+, it's a 4/4 with double strike. So, and this was originally from Rise of the Eldrazi.
Yeah.
This won a Pro Tour in the hands of Paul Rietzel at that Pro Tour Amsterdam in 2010. Sort of like the spiritual successor to Figure of Destiny, in that you could just dump all your mana into this, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Turn 2, you're attacking with a 3/3 first strike.
This was, it was the ability to have one threat. If you can just stick one threat, you keep pouring resources into that one threat. Now, if they got the Doomblade or whatever, you got the Doomblade. But if you ain't got it, this thing is going to run away with the game eventually. So you have to take care of it. So as being one of the best white drops of all time, I love Level Up. I wish they would do it some more. I know it's weird. I know it's niche, but I love the idea of it. I love the idea of like making your creatures bigger and having a way to represent that. I like the idea of having level up costs that would be like sacrifice a creature, not just paying mana, for example, or sacrifice a land. That would be pretty cool. But they from what Wizards has told me when I go off about how much I love Level Up, they're like, well, there's not a lot much else we can do with it. And I'm like, yeah, but what you have done with it, I would be okay with you running it back a little bit. Let's do this in green, let's do this in red. Like, what would those look like? I don't know. I mean, there was the Dragon Lord guy in Rise of Eldrazi that was kind of like that.
Yeah,
that was the red Level Up guy. But still, again, I thought Level Up was a great mechanic. Let's move on here to my number 4. My number 4 is a fairly recent card, but still a damn good card. In fact, still sees standard play to this day. Wizards has done nothing but change their mind when it comes to buy a box promos. Back in the day, you used to get a buy a box promo, and it was crap. And it was some random crap rare from the set. No one gave half poop at it, whatever.
Yep.
Then Wizards said, hey, we got this great idea. And we're going to make unique buy box promos that you can only get by buying a box of Magic and or in the singles market. And of course, everyone lost their collective poop. Not the first time they did it, but here comes a time walk, and oh my God. And later, another buy box promo comes out that sees a ton of play, and you're like, wow, that's a heck of a Magic card for Kenrith, the Return King, to be on.
Yeah.
Saw a ton of play almost immediately. Yeah. It's a white and 4 generic mana for a 5/5 mythic legendary human noble, and it has 5 abilities, one for each color. For 1 red, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. For a green and a generic mana, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. For a white and 2 generic mana, you target player gains 5 life. For a blue and 3 generic mana, target player draws a card. And for a black and 4 generic mana, put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control.
It does everything.
It does everything.
Yeah.
It's the mana sink to end all mana sinks. This was very popular in a variety of different decks during its time in Standard. It's particularly good when spells are free, like, for example, Fires of Invention, when you're able to play this and give it haste and smash for 5. Or 10 if you play a Cavalier along with it. It also saw a lot of play in the Golos Field of the Dead decks because, of course, you want to give your 2/2s haste as well.
Right. Yeah, this card was just a absolute monster. And in Fires, it was so disgusting because Jeskai Fires would just gain all the life back.
Yeah.
Put the card to play for free and then pay 6 mana and gain 10 life. And that would be the end of it. You would never be able to come back from that. It was crazy. This card does so much. And also to be a buy box promo. Now, Wizards, it was always very adamant. They're like, look, there are more copies of that buy box than any other mythic in the set. And I'm like, that doesn't matter because perception is reality, and the perception is this thing is very hard to get a hold of, and you shouldn't have done it that way. And before you know it, we don't have mechanically unique buy boxes any longer.
Yeah. I mean, it was Nexus of Fate and Kenrith, I think, were the last 2, right?
They put the nail in, let me tell you. Aaron, what's number 3?
My number 3 is the only higher on my list.
Fair enough.
Wow.
Ruben, what's number 3?
If you had told me that this card would win 2 Pro Tours. It would win a Worlds in addition and a Mox, an MTGO Champs, when it came out. And that it would be maybe the best 1-drop white creature of all time. I would have told you, you were crazy. You were insane if Thraben Inspector was going to be the most played 1-drop white creature of all time. And yet, here we are. Yeah. Thraben Inspector is a 1/2. It's a common, originally from Shadows of Innistrad, reprinted a couple times. It's a human soldier, and when it enters the battlefield, Investigate, which lets you create a colorless clue artifact token with pay 2 colorless and sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. This card saw a ton of play in White Weenie. This card saw a ton of play in green-white tokens, which it ended up winning a Pro Tour in. Collected Bant. It ended up winning a Pro Tour in Mardu Vehicles. This card was all over the place. Being able to make 2 permanents, one of which can draw you a card, even if it's an overcosted card, was ridiculous.
It still sees play to this day in Pauper. Like, this is a card that's not going to go away. The idea that it provides another permanent, it provides an artifact that's important, it gives you another card off of it. It's a 1/2, so it can block 1/1s. Like, there's so many little boxes, like little tiny boxes. But when you add all those boxes together, the sum is just greater than the parts. And it's so much more than just a 1-mana 1/2.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Great.
Tireless Tracker was in this block as well. So
yeah.
I'll take it. I mean, being able to do anything to a Thraben Inspector, blink it, return it to your hand so you can play it again, like, all that stuff just keeps giving
play
you
in
Smuggler's Copter, yeah.
Right. It gives you Metalcraft, or helps you get to Metalcraft in those Boros Metalcraft decks. It's a come-into-play ability for if you have your core Skyfishers and whatnot. It just does everything.
Yeah.
So for my number 3 here, this was my biggest surprise. In that I like what it does a lot, and I really appreciate its impact. And then I also appreciate that how in the hell is Grand Abolisher $20? What is happening?
Really?
What is going on when Grand Abolisher is $20? I don't get it. I was like, this card's really cool. I was writing down for my list, and I was like, 19 what? This card is 2 white mana for a rare 2/2 human cleric that says during your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Yeah. It's pretty much my turn is my turn. Y'all need to sit down, shut up and watch me do my thing. Grand Abolisher is here.
Yeah, I learned this the hard way. I play Modern ad nauseum sometimes, and there were some recent lists that were running 2 copies of this, and I was like, I'll just have to get you some Grand Abolishers, and I saw the price tag, and I was like, what? Why? And so I don't know if this being played in any sort of serious competitive capacity, so it's got to be EDH. I mean, it's only been printed 2.5 times. It was really originally printed in Magic 2012, Commander 2014, and then Arch Enemy Nicol Bolas, so that's not... But
that's not a ton.
It's not a ton. I mean, it has seen play in White Weenie and kind of like those Geist White Weenie decks for a little while. It's like a hate bear. But you're right. It hasn't seen serious competitive play anywhere.
Oh, no. This is the Commander card. It sees play in on EDH Rec. 17,000 decks have this card in it.
Okay. That's a lot.
I don't think I've ever faced it. Like, that's so interesting.
Like, 9% of their database has this guy in it. That's insane.
The fact that it's it does shut off a whole lot, not least of which being end of turn Cyclonic Rifts, but also, fetch lands or anything else that you would do in response. This thing completely shuts off.
Well, it doesn't shut down fetch lands. It's only artifacts, creatures, and enchantments.
Sorry, but not fetch lands.
But all sorts of things. I mean, the tomes or whatever, the discs of the world, whatever they're playing with.
It doesn't let you top at the end of the turn or whatever.
Right, because you don't want to be able to top. I mean, as we know.
Yeah. Well, we all want to.
We don't want to bottom.
I mean, some of us want to
top. I was waiting for Aaron to catch on. All right, let's move on to number 2.
You will never.
Yeah. Never.
No. I will never crack a top.
I share a number 2 with someone.
Me?
You? Well, that's awesome. It's weird we have this at number 2 of all things. I'm always fascinated by the same 2s.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I tend to go for the things in older formats, at the top, my 1, 2, 3, the most broken things. And this is a card that, has seen play in Vintage because, I think you can make it work in Legacy, but it's really missing... Yeah, you can. I mean, that's Nick Fit's a thing, but, you really want to play this in those Rector Flash decks because you really want to flash this. But you can also do dumb things with, like, Cabal Therapy as well. This card is $75. Am I seeing this right?
It's $700 foil. It is a reserved list card. God help us all. Our number 2 is Academy Rector.
My number 7.
Nice. So,
Rector, I don't even know her.
I know, right? Nearly killed her. Academy Rector is a white and 3 generic mana for a 1/2 creature human cleric. When Academy Rector dies, you may exile it. If you do, search your library for an enchantment card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So
typically you get Omniscience, and then from there you can play your Emrakul for free, and you can just have a really good time. I think I've seen some other dumb things as well, but you typically want to play this with Flash. Like I said, but Flash is banned in Legacy, so
yes.
You typically want to save this in Vintage. It's like a tier 2, tier 3 deck in Vintage. Yeah. But yeah, you can also play this in Nick Fit as well. You can get a Leyline of the Void if you want to, or any sort of shenanigans. But yeah, there's just nothing else. I mean, we have the Arena Rector that lets you get a Planeswalker, but this is it's been reprinted 1.5 times if you count the World Championship deck version with gold border. But
with the gold border unplayable version is $13.
Yeah,
exactly. Academy Rector. I have a ton of great memories of Academy Rector playing it in Standard. I had a mono white deck that had 1 copy of Yawgmoth's Bargain and 1 copy of Phyrexian Tower in it. And that was a ton of fun. I mean, that deck was great too.
Yeah.
The Academy Rectors over the years, I've seen them go get ridiculous things from obviously things like Omniscience and Dream Halls to, sneak attack.
Stuff like Moat,
it doesn't really,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Huge game ending effects. Form of the Dragon. I mean, there are like huge game ending effects that you can go get with this. I think Overwhelming Splendor might be another recent one that people have started going to get with Academy Rector.
I was very close to putting Arena Rector on my list, particularly because of the Judge 2020 gift version. Looks amazing by Jason Rainville. I absolutely love that art to death. But
look at that.
But I do like Academy Rector quite a bit, and yeah, my God, $700 foil. Thanks, reserved list. Let's move on here to our number 1.
I have a number 2.
Oh my God, you do have a number 2. I'm sorry. We went here to Ruben's number 2. Ruben, what you got?
My number 2 is kind of where we got Rick, the Steadfast leader, from. We've got the big, badass 3/4 for 4 mana. And also, once again, in the cavalcade of keyword abilities that aren't really going to see much play anymore. Again, a Pro Tour win in the cube, been in a ton of stuff. My number 2 is Hero of Bladehold.
Oh, yeah.
2 colorless white for a 3/4 human knight with Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Whenever Hero of Bladehold attacks, create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. So, if this is in play and it doesn't die, you're attacking for 7 the next turn, and then the turn after that, well, probably lethal.
Yeah, this card was a monster in Standard. I recall very specifically playing the red-white Hero of Bladehold deck. I could have played the Hawk, the Claw.
Squadron Hawk?
Yes. What do you call it? The freaking Pro Tour deck.
Callblade,
thank you. I could have played Callblade, and I died to Callblade playing the red-white deck, because I'm not Paul Riesel, and I can't play Hero Bladehold as well as he can. But this card also was a little tricky. You had to make sure you stacked the triggers correctly. You got the creatures, and then you pumped them or whatever. Right.
You had to put the Battle Cry on the stack first, then the creatures, so that the creatures would come in, so that then you would get the trigger.
Right.
This, of course, won Pro Tour Nagoya in 2011, alongside another powerful white human, Pure Steel Paladin, in the hands of David Scharfman.
Nice. Yeah, David Scharfman's a great Magic player. So, this card was really sweet, and you can't say much more if it's going to win a Pro Tour, right? Like, it's a damn good white mana card, and they don't make a lot of those over the years. So, let's move on here to our number 1. Aaron, what's your number 1?
My number 1, I share with somebody.
That's right. We share a number 1.
Oh my God. I'm getting my time with both of you.
That's right.
If we're going to talk about cards that have rocketed all the way to the top, to the oldest formats, and ironically enough sees almost no play in any other formats. It's occasionally been a sideboard card in like Standard. People have tried to make it a thing in Modern. Miracles used it in Legacy as a way to like close out games. But really where it had the most impact, where it continues to have the most impact, is Vintage, where it ended up getting restricted. Because, playing this on turn 1 is something you can do. And then when you pair it with a bunch of Moxen, or even just Loop Sensei's Divining Top, things get stupid really, really quickly. Our number 1 is Monastery Mentor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our number 1 Monastery Mentor is 2 colorless and a white for a 2/2 human monk with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 monk creature token with prowess.
Goodness. Giving the tokens prowess was just a bridge
lot.
too
It's
far.
a lot.
That was a
There
lot.
are decks in Vintage where this is the win condition. This one copy of Monastery Mentor. That's it. So they'll chain paradoxical outcome. They'll draw 12. They'll draw 5. They'll put them up, pick them up and put them down. And then this is what you're looking for. And then the minute you do, you go Moxen. Everything you've picked up goes back. And then if you're really feeling freaky, you can sacrifice those to your Bolus's Citadel if you want to.
Sure, why not?
Stupid.
Who cares? Why not? Let's do it.
There are a bunch of decks that are, mentor, like Paradoxical Mentor or Mentor Fish or Monastery Miracles, Xerox Mentor. Like, they have the name of the creature in the deck name. It's a Delver, essentially, right? Or it's on a pedestal up there. And being restricted in Vintage is just such a ridiculous honor and distinction to have.
To be legal in Legacy, but restricted in Vintage is a very, very short
It's
list.
short list. No other format.
It's like
typically
Brainstorm and Ponder and Monastery Mentor, and that's it.
There's very, very few. It's ridiculous. So for my number 1, that's a great pick, and I'm glad you guys did it, because I was like, oh my god, I hope you guys include Monastery Mentor, because for me, I guess I just have too much nostalgia, attachment. I had too many good times. I had too many awesome white creature decks that I got to draft in the cube. I had so much fun, and just between not the lore per se, but just the culture around Mom, the culture around Mama.
You're a good Southern boy, Evan.
Yeah, you Mama's boy.
Mama's boy, y'all. Mother of Runes is my number 1. It's a damn good creature. It's an awesome. They won't make them like this anymore. They just don't. They did include it in the mystery booster. Thank you for the $4 uncommon. It's a Mother of Runes, and also thanks for being an uncommon so you can reprint it. Mother of Runes is a white mana for a 1/1 uncommon human cleric that says tap : target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. That's great.
Like a hug from Mom.
Nice.
Yeah. My number 3, and you see the impact of this card, when you look at Modern. Modern didn't have a Mother of Runes until they gave us Giver of Runes. And so, that one card really helped make Death and Taxes, Death and Taxes is now a tier 1 deck in Modern, thanks to, Skyclave Apparition. But, the Giver certainly helped, and just so when you look at the impact of this seemingly innocuous card, this card can change games. If you if you have this and a Flicker Wisp, Grizzlebrand who? It just doesn't, what are you going to do?
Right. And so Giver of Runes got an extra toughness, but couldn't target itself or whatever.
Right. Also colorless.
Also gave you colorless protection, which was huge. Mother of Runes, again, kind of dated in many ways, but also a design you don't see anymore. And a power level you don't see anymore.
And it was so indelible to so many decks over its lifespan. I mean, these days, Death and Taxes, but it's also been important in Miracles. It's been important in the old red-white mid-range kind of, before Boat Brew was Boat Brew, there was a weird red-white mid-range deck. Stuff like that.
There's few cards I could think of that I would say, if you reprinted this one card, you would make white a tournament viable color by its very existence.
Yep.
And Mother of Runes would be it.
Mother of Runes would be it, for sure.
It would be ridiculous. But that is our top 10 mono white humans. You will see them on the screen right now for your review. Please take a look at my list, Aaron's list, Ruben's top 10. We want to hear from you about what card we did not talk about. And we'll select our favorite to win a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, let's move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv at MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, our Magic Mike subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Or just join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.